Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Fagin Live. It is Saturday, 23rd of July. Time is 10 p.m. Kiev time, and we're doing kind of a milestone stream, day 150 with Alexey Arestovich. Good evening, Alexey. Good evening, Mark. About 100,000 watching us live. About 1/5 of you left likes. As usual, please share links, click the like button, and subscribe to Fagin Live, to Alexey Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are watching that in English and you have not done that yet. Alright, let's start with, I don't know, day 150. What do you think? This is quite a duration for the war like this. What do you think? Yes, it seems like a lot of days, but at the same time, each war depends upon the depth of the theater and the powers that are involved in the conflict. In our case, we have a huge theater, and the powers participating are inadequate, and Russian side has absolutely inadequate tasks for them. They would have been smart if they sensed the situation, withdrew, and understood that no, this is a wrong task. But they didn't. Do you think it's a long duration for Ukraine, day 150? I don't know how you mean that, but I personally thought that Russian command and Russian management was smarter because strategically they basically lost this war by the end of March. After that, no other strategic efforts would allow them to win this war. When they failed to take Kiev as planned, one can say they lost this war entirely. And they lost it on the strategic level long time ago, but soon they'll lose it on the operative level and after a while on the tactical. Their stubbornness became legendary in this war. You know, where did we take it, those 2-3 weeks in our estimates? Yeah, exactly. I don't remember you forecasting the end of war in 2 to 3 weeks. We never said that. I used 2-3 weeks once initially at the middle of March when I promised that they will exhaust themselves and die under Kiev. But, you know, Alexei, people interpret things in their own way. Yeah, I don't think these are general people. I think these are those who wish us well, in parentheses. I think that if they were smart people, at least, you know, mid-level, they would have stopped this war. And frankly, they would not even have started this war in such a form. You want too much from them. Oh, I don't want anything from them. I'm just drawing conclusions. And I think they're basically living, Russian military and political management are living in according to the principle, never give up, look dumb to the very end. As for the front itself, let's go over the map. They're making efforts in Kharkov region, in Izum, but one needs to understand that they're tactical movements. And behind the front line, they have an attempt to create operative tactical reserves to add them to the direction of the main concentration of effort. So from Izum to Slavyansk to Seversk to Bakhmut, down by New York to general big pushback from Russia. They're just trying to neutralize some of our attempts. And there is a situation that's sort of reminiscent of Ilovaisk after yesterday's stream, but one needs to be careful. It is not exact Ilovaisk version because their troops are not entirely cut off. And our troops are not exactly brilliant in that area. And in order for that encirclement to become complete and lead to good results, we still need to fight for that. So, if we throw more reserves in that area, it'll be problematic for them. If we don't, then we might lose the operative advantage that we currently have. And speaking mildly, if I look at the actions taken by our command, I'm not sure that they're capable, whoever is running it on our side is capable of performing this operation. All right, Alexei, and what would be proper in order to succeed in such an operation? I will not be elaborating on that here. I will not be telling our enemies what to do. So once the war is over, once we have more freedom to discuss these situations, I'll absolutely bring it up and we can talk about it in detail. But in general, there is a perspective that situation will change in our favor. Also, our artillery keeps working in that area, somewhat to the west from Kherson. There is a bridge across Ingulets near Darina, and in general, there is a bridge there that's unavoidable for Russians if they want to go somewhere. And our military damaged that bridge. So the thing is that even if we cannot destroy the dam or something in Novokakhovka, we can target a much more effective, I would say, target, that bridge over Ingulets in that area. So our artillery worked there, not 100% success. We damaged some part of the bridge, but in some near future, that bridge may have its final day. What do you think? Do you guys will think that you'll destroy Antonov Bridge? It's at the bottom, I believe, at 7 p.m. on this map. I'm not opening any mystery to anybody. Everybody who's concentrating their attention on the southern side of front, we can understand that we are going to weaken, split, and destroy the southern group of Russian arms on this side. And it just takes time. It is obvious that we do plan to separate them from the other side of the river. Here is the problem that it's only 2 bridges. And I did hear that Russians are planning to bring pontoon bridges to reinforce their supply lines. At the same time, I need to say that concrete bridge, even if it's hit by artillery or MLRS system, it likely will continue standing, as you've seen it on the pictures and the video. It takes a bit more accuracy and repetitive hits in the same area to destroy it, to collapse it. For the pontoon bridges, a very good hit basically disconnects pontoons from each other, and the bridge starts floating downriver. So that will be definitely an issue for them, and we'll see how it works, because our MLRS system is very precise, and it will have a good day targeting any pontoon bridges. So today, generally, there is a pause. There is more activity behind the front, where they trying to reinforce and do some rotation with their troops. Again, the size of group that they continue a reserve is a group of 3 to 4 battalion tactical groups. A month ago, 10, 15 battalion tactical groups was somewhat a reinforcement. So 2, 3, 4 is much weaker than that. And from the beginning of the war, at the beginning, 15 battle tactical groups was not even an effort. So, but today's we're talking about 2 to 3 battalion tactical groups as a reserve, so that basically them going down 10 times in their reserve capacity from the beginning of this conflict. They used to count 30 to 40 battalion tactical groups as a reserve, and now it's 3 to 4. So soon they probably will consider a platoon of troops a significant reserve to go and fight for them. All right, let's discuss Odessa port, which happened, the shelling of it happened a day after signing the Istanbul Agreement, the indirect one, where both Ukraine and Russia signed agreement with Turkey. So, in essence, that does show everybody whom are we dealing with. And military experts, different ones, have their own opinions. I have mine. What is yours? What do you think? How would you describe that action? Especially that they shot it after the treaty was signed and it's Odessa port. Mark, I have a feeling that this is just a basic revenge. To whom and for what? Well, they tried to push a certain kind of agreement upon us, and it didn't work for them. Our diplomacy prevailed, and that's their reaction. The fact that this is not a systemic thing, this is more of a reaction to the contract, is I can deduce that from their answer to the Turks. So after the shelling, when Turks turned them with the question, why did you do that? They did not provide any details saying that Ukraine is violating something, that there are some reasons for that. Russian side just refused to acknowledge the shelling and said, that's not us. So this is very Putin's regime. It's their quintessence of addressing problems and answering questions. I've seen enough of that during 8 years. Do you think it means that this agreement won't really work in case of security? That they'll continue shooting down vessels and stuff? I don't think so, no. I think this is a one-time action on Russian side, and Turks will really not like the violating the contract. What do you mean? How would Turks react to this contract, you think? Yeah, Turks have some experience. They know how to express when they don't like the situation. Not too many people know that when there was a war in 18, there was actions between Russian troops and Turkish troops in Syria, in one of the last provinces. And although in the news they were saying that they're not direct fights, there actually was direct fights. And Russian troops were warned, do not touch them. There are actual Turkish troops coming into that theater. Russians attacked that detachment. There were over 30 soldiers dead as a result. So some time passed, and Turkish special forces delivered a dozen heads of Russian special force officers to Russian command. So they managed to hunt down the special detachments that were working on that theater. destroy them and then cut their heads off and ship it to Russian military. So Turks have a good handle on how to show, how to express to the Russians that they're doing wrong. Now the thing is, Russia may disagree and may continue to escalate, but in this case, conflict of Russia with Turkey, that is a good thing for us. And if they continue escalating, they probably will have a bigger conflict with United Nations, which is again good for us. And once again, where Russia would sink them in neutral waters, this is violation of everything civil on the ocean. If they'll be sinking vessels in our waters, we'll be answering, because our harpoons reach pretty far. It's not even simple to approach close enough technically. So there definitely will be attempts to export grain and food, and we'll see Russian reaction to that. Because every attempt to push back on Ukraine with this humanitarian program risks to draw wrath and attention of Turkey to the offender. So there will be asked a question, if Ukraine is providing food to other countries, why are you doing that? So yeah, one thing is a random missile that flew and hit something, but an attempt to destroy this shipping is a whole other proposition. However, I cannot really vouch entirely for them, because it's Russians, they can do a lot of dumb things. I can only say that this attack on Odessa was, in my opinion, a random action of hate, that they don't like where they are, and the agreement that they had to sign. I just side with our president, who said that he does not believe Russians. He did not believe before, he doesn't believe now. All right, so another information about German supplies of air defense systems, IRIS. 11 pieces of that seem to be delayed. German press is publishing. Do you think it's true? Yeah, it is, I think, an element of inner Germany hustle. Also, I'm not taking that seriously, because these systems have not been manufactured yet. So how can they be delaying that? They need to be manufactured on a factory, 11 pieces, that takes time. So I believe whenever they are produced, they will be supplied to the front. So you think the situation is not really changing with these German maybe attempts to slow things down? No, I think this is the game on the game of titles. That media titles are pushing certain narrative, and that's how they're playing it. Germany allowed this, Germany disallowed that, Germany allowed this, Germany disallowed that. That creates a certain roller coaster and certain drama in that matter. One needs to understand that this weaponry is a military supply contract that we, bought. This is not help that I can give or not give. So on the military market, people are monitoring Germany. How far down the road are they? Did they manufacture anything? Did they refuse to ship? Did they ship? So I don't even expect them not to ship that. It just takes time, and that's what's happening. All right, I can see your point of view. Thank you. Now, regarding the situation about contract signed in Istanbul, the role of Roman Abramovich, video showed that he was there, he was present during the signing of this agreement, and video also shows that it's not just Abramovich, but some other Russian oligarchs are trying to partake in these processes and maybe create certain communication lines, establish them between Russia and Ukraine. So oligarchs in Russia, they're basically like government industrialists, government businessmen, and perhaps some of them are trying to unlist themselves from the sanction lists. Do you think that could be somewhat successful? It is hard to tell, Mark. I don't know if they will be making this motion. Yeah, they will be making these motions. I am actually representing a few of the European agencies and stuff, and some hassle around Russian assets, and they are making motions to unlist themselves from sanctions. So I don't believe this is that right way to look at it, because imagine I'm an oligarch that produces certain things that are sanctioned, and then I'm doing what? Talking to possible customers and trying to sell them these things under the table? No, I don't think that's exactly how it works for them. But I think their activity like that, Abramovich, perhaps helps them to avoid certain litigations and certain confiscations that they would be facing otherwise. And yeah, I heard Abramovich started taking to court some of the resources in Europe for arresting his assets. We'll see how successful is that. I kind of know where you're leading with these questions. One of them would be, is it right that Arhamia went to London to agree on certain things? Let me rephrase that. I do want to see that if they can resolve issues with international community by means of Ukraine, by means of trying to partake in the peace talks with Ukraine. No, I don't think it'll be a success for them. They can try. Somewhere at the end, it may play a role if you actually were against the war, were expressing that, and you were trying to help Ukraine. But otherwise, it's not too big of a proposition. It is an argument for Ukraine, maybe, because we could have gotten some advantage from it. But I don't think it's an argument for the West, because they're playing their own game with these sanctions. So you think this, in general, will not help and will not lead to any fruition? I think we need to wait and see how things unfold. What they cannot understand in Kremlin, they very often demand from us to stop the sanctions against them. And they just, with these statements, they reveal that they don't understand how the system works. That we cannot tell the West to not sanction Russia. This is an independent decision of the West in regards to Russian Federation. All right. We have 358,000 watching us live. Over 100,000 left their likes. Again, as a reminder, please share links to these streams and subscribe to Fagin Live, to Alexey Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are watching that in English. I'm also seeing comments in our chat that I got a cold. Yes, I indeed got cold. I'm not dying. It's just a cold and my voice going down a little. I had worse diseases before, so this is nothing. Don't worry, I'm not dying yet. Alright, so some asshole, a member of the main council of Zaporozhye Region Administration, commented that they slowed down the work of Google and they previously blocked YouTube and Twitter in that area. So they authorized some Rogov dude to block Twitter and social media there. Do I understand it correctly that in potentially to be deoccupied regions, Russians are fight like Kherson and Zaporozhye. Russians are limiting Google, YouTube, and other internet media in those areas. I suspect they're limiting it also because of the referendum attempt that they announced earlier. Yes, please tell us. Well, there's no depth here to dive. It's very straightforward. They do not want any opportunity to mess their propaganda and their attempt to make fake milestones and fake news in these areas. So they're trying to limit exposure of these territories to the actual world, which just highlights the level they want to encapsulate these territories and try to achieve their own goals. All right, yeah, I can see that. Let's see. I got a letter from Kherson. He's a subscriber from that area. He's writing that I see that you and Alexei are saving and commenting on a lot of things that are happening on the front. So recently I had Russian troops who came to our town and they're pushing us to use some of my enterprise private property for their own military use. So, Mark, help me, because they force us to have Russian passports, and at the same time, I heard that Ukraine will punish those of us who agree to have Russian passports. So, how do your citizens have to act in these situations when they're pushed to certain limits? I think the General Congress of Ukraine needs to make a certain official statement. I started talking about it about 3 months ago that Ukraine Parliament Congress needs to release guidance for our own people on the occupied territories. So yeah, they should be trying to avoid working with Russian occupiers in those territories as much as they can. Express the need that they need to work with elderly parents, kids, whatever, that they are afraid to work with with Russians because of SBU, Ukraine military, that they will come and punish them later. Personally, I don't think that level will be prosecuted legally after deblocking and after deoccupying these territories. So I still suggest try to avoid these, try to maneuver as much as you can. But you understand, people do need to survive that somehow. I do, and that's why I'm saying maneuver. What if they say, give us the property or you'll be executed? Well, I understand, Mark. If that's how they address them, then their option for maneuver just dwindled significantly. So I don't believe it'll get to that, but yes. Okay, this is significant advice. Thank you, and we can add paying taxes and anything related to this question. Yes. Yes, Mark. Remember the insignia of Soviet Union with the hammer and sickle? Do you know how it was interpreted in the Red Army? Avoid and evade. Translating from Russian, that's basically what he's suggesting. To avoid this confrontation and evade consequences from the government. All right, we have still over 400,000 watching us. I request to please share links to that stream. In this situation, there are more conversation about Orban, Hungary, who came to Moscow and made statements. I don't remember if it was him or one of his party visiting Moscow, but the statements that they made were noteworthy. he did say that sanctions do not work in regards to Moscow, that what is very important. Prime ministers fell in some of the countries in Europe for governments, as he said. And he said, this is horrible and the world needs to change something. So my prognosis is something is pretty bad with Hungary. I think it's materially motivated, and this is just Russian propaganda speaking through Orban. What do you think about that? But because right now they're actually creating some political narrative which could threaten the unity of European Union. Well, there is a different narrative in EU that Scholz even voiced, that European Union needs to go to majority vote instead of the absolute vote on most aspects, because some countries, without pointing fingers, Scholz did look at Hungary and say that they are blocking the flow of the whole European Union. As for Hungarians, I wouldn't say blanketly Hungarians. I would say Orban's party. That's his statement. Because different groups have different opinion on that in Hungary. Even president of Hungary has a different opinion. There are parties that have absolutely different opinion. There are opponents to Orban's party throughout the country that have different opinion. And Ukraine made their own evaluation of these statements, and they said that we have good understanding with Hungary on some aspects, and some of the recent statements, they just cause us to stop and wonder what are they thinking about. And I think that whole pushing of European Union to the corner with these statements, I think that's all happening because Orban is afraid to become the fifth prime minister among those who fell. What's obvious is that he'll never be re-elected, so he's making all efforts to stay in power in his country. Who else is making visits to Moscow out of the countries of NATO? Nobody. This is like a disease quarters that nobody wants to go to, and people are avoiding it. But Orban is visiting. So this is an active statement against the whole European Union, and they likely will reach a situation where they'll be told that majority in the EU made a different decision. Because you cannot lead, you cannot work politics, especially when you have 30 plus countries in your group. You just can't. Especially when there are people playing against that politics and who have the right of veto. So this story is lacking good perspective. It will be changing, and war, if anything, expedited the process. All right, we've been live for 33 minutes. I have, I think, one question left. How is your day tomorrow? You're taking a day off? Yes, I'm taking a day off. All right, so we'll have no stream on Sunday. Our next stream will be on Monday. So the last question is yesterday's statement by Jacob Sullivan, advisor of national security to the president of US. By the way, Biden is sick. But anyway, so he did make a statement that the missile ATACMS, the one that flies for 300 miles, is not going to be supplied to Ukraine. It is not in consideration at the moment. And there were some more statements that I would generally color as non-threatening to Putin and trying to soft him somehow. What do you think about it? Is there any dynamic about it? What explanations would you have? I would remind that 3 months back there was no discussion about even giving any HIMARS to Ukraine. This was considered to be a red line, and a bunch of serious leaders from different groups and official establishments of US They said one thing first, and then eventually they gave it. Remember, same thing with aviation. Before they said no, 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 nothing, no aviation to Ukraine, and right now we have our pilots being trained on American military equipment. So this story is about we're not giving it today, perhaps we'll give it tomorrow, perhaps on the third cycle we'll be able to give more. So what do you think? They're trying to do it piecemeal to not cause any aggressive reaction from Moscow? I think the explanation is that in the military world, it's good when a target was already hit, and then a week later you announce what was used in it, because otherwise there'll be barriers used against you. Political, military, special services, and there'll be other ways to influence your process. So I want to say that all the news that we had from the front, targets hit by this, by that, it usually means that these weapons were on the front for at least a couple of weeks already prior to that. And they did say that about everything. We heard that about javelins, we heard that about HIMARS. Remember in March when we talked about HIMARS? Aviation was a complete taboo. Tanks, they'll never supply that. Armored vehicles, armored personnel carriers, no, we won't. Howitzers, artillery, no, this is too difficult. So now we only have airplanes missing. So they will supply airplanes. I want to remind that the framework decision for all that was the one made in refitting Ukraine to match NATO standards and to match NATO equipment. And that's where we're going to. All right. We are live for almost 37 minutes. At the end of this stream, we have a charity program. You know it. We've got 3 stores in Europe, in America, and in Ukraine. You can purchase all of that merch, and your money will be used to support some select victims of this war. So this father of that family that we showed yesterday, where the boy is with burnt skin over in a hospital, he reached out to us, and we'll be sending $2,000 in euro by Monday. It's a weekend, so banks don't quite work right now, but we got his data, and we'll be sending it in the next 24 hours, basically. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you all on Monday at 10 p.m. Kiev time. One way or another, there'll be more news, and we'll have more things to discuss on Monday. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you, everybody, and see you on air.